Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight on our continuation of From the Ashes, the Easter story. Tonight we're going to focus in on the crucifixion aspect of the story of Easter. The first thing I wanted to bring to our attention is during the arrest, when Jesus was being arrested, the Bible says that Judas betrayed him, and by a kiss. And the most fascinating thing about this to me, and that jumped out at me, was in verse 6 in John chapter 18. The Bible says that Jesus said, "I am He." So let's give a little context to what that means here. This is a time where Jesus was asking the soldiers, "Who are you looking for?" And they were saying, "We're looking for Jesus of Nazareth." And he said, "I am He." And the Bible says, if you keep reading the verse, you'll find that everyone fell to the ground. And I couldn't help but realize the last time you kind of read that is back in the Old Testament with Moses, when Moses was standing in front of the burning bush, and Moses was in amazement of the bush and shock at the same time of uncertain times for him, because the bush told him to go and be the leader for his people. And so the bush said, "Tell my people that I am He." And I couldn't help, as I began to think about everything that was happening around in our world today, the uncertainty, of what's going to happen next. In all amidst of chaos, Jesus said, "I am He." I am so thankful today that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So no matter what we're going through, we can understand and be assured that we can stand firm and say, "I know that He is able to do anything." So this began a transition that took place. When Jesus said, "I am He," everyone fell to the ground in amazement to knowing that, whoa, this is the Messiah. But it didn't stop them from arresting Jesus. They put hands on Jesus and they began to arrest him. And we know that what happened next was Peter got all frustrated and upset and pulled a sword and chopped off somebody's ear because he was trying to defend and fight for Jesus. But we know how they took Jesus at this time, and they began to journey to the court, if you will, to stand trial. As they arrested Jesus and they began to march towards the high priest courtyard to begin to question Jesus, the Bible says people began to gather, began to ask the question. They even asked Peter the question, "Hey, aren't you a follower? Aren't you a disciple?" And Peter denied the fact that he even knew who Jesus was. The Bible says that he even cursed. And what guilt and shame that he felt, because he knew in the back of his mind that Jesus told him just a little time ago that he would deny him when he heard the rooster. As they take Jesus to the high priest to be questioned about all of his teachings and his disciples, and Jesus told the truth. He was honest and said, "If I've done anything wrong, then tell me what I've done wrong." And so that response did not sit well with the soldier. The soldier smote him, slapped him in the face, and said, "Hey, don't you realize who you're standing in front of? This is the high priest." And Jesus' response was, "Hey, if I said anything wrong, then tell me what I said wrong. But I speak truth." And so now the high priest didn't know what to do. So they're like, "You know what? We're going to send you to Pilate, to the higher court system, and you're going to go and stand before him." So when they bring Jesus now from the high priest courtyard to Pilate, and Jesus is standing before Pilate, Pilate asks the people, So what charges do you have against this man? And so they could not come up with a good answer. So when Pilate went to sit with Jesus and ask him the question, "Are you the king of the Jews?" The Bible says that Jesus told him, says, "My kingdom is not of this world." So Pilate stopped and said, "So you're saying you are a king?" And Jesus said, "I was born for this purpose, and I have come to this world to bear witness of the truth." So Pilate got up, went back out to the people, and said, "I find no fault in him. I don't understand why you want to crucify him." The Bible says that he had Jesus scourged, or they whipped him and began to beat him, and he thought maybe that would test them enough to back down to want to crucify him. And so Jesus comes back and they present Jesus all bloodied and beat up, and the people intensify with blood hungry of crucifying him. At this particular time, they always released one prisoner to be released from prison. And so the Bible says that they brought Barabbas out, and the people began to say, "Free Barabbas." They'd rather free Barabbas and crucify Jesus. So once Pilate washed his hands, he said, "I don't want anything to do with this. His blood will not be on my hands. It'll be on yours." And he sent them away and let them crucify Jesus. The Bible says that he marched his way to Calvary's Hill, and he was carrying his cross, and he was stumbling, making his way to Calvary's Hill. And the Bible says that he stumbled and he fell so many times that they even grabbed somebody to help him carry his cross all the way to Calvary. And when he got to Calvary's Hill, and they began to proceed with nailing him to the tree and getting the cross upright, the Bible says that he was standing in between two men that were being crucified as well with Jesus. The Bible says there became a time where they broke the legs of the two other prisoners, but on Jesus, they actually pierced him in his side. And that is to fulfill a prophecy that they pierced him. The most amazing thing about that is the fact that not one bone was ever broken. After going through everything that he went through physically, a beating, lashings, a crown of thorns, nails going through his hands and his feet, to be lifted up high on a cross and to be able to stay there long enough without a broken bone, tells you he was determined to fulfill the purpose that he came for. When the soldiers pierced Jesus in the side, they realized that he was coming to the end. And one of the most powerful things that happened here on earth was when Jesus said 3 words. He said, "It is finished." The Bible says that the whole earth shook, and people murmured and said, "He was the King of the Jews." After some time, Jesus was on the cross. After he passed, the Bible says that a group of people came to take Jesus off the cross, and they took him off the cross and wrapped him in linen and placed him in a tomb to rest. As tonight, as we reflect over the crucifixion story and realize that Jesus was betrayed, and then he was beaten and put a crown of thorns on his head, and walked that road to Calvary, and was nailed to a tree. As we reflect about everything that took place up to his point of saying, "It is finished," I hope tonight you can understand and realize He did all of this for you and for me as we prepare to get ready for Friday morning, as most of our world considers it Good Friday. It is a good time to reflect and thank the Lord for everything that He had did for us to bring salvation to us. So I hope that tonight that you would take a few moments and reflect on your life, where God has brought you from, and thank the Lord for everything that He's doing in your life. I hope that you were blessed tonight and encouraged with the fact that Jesus came and died for you and I so that we could be free. So be blessed and have a great